Marcus Chen wiped the blood from his mouth with the back of his hand. His body ached all over. Every muscle screamed in pain. But he was still standing. The alien warrior lying on the arena floor was not. The crowd in the massive arena roared like thunder. Thousands of Kithaeron aliens filled the seats that rose high into the air around him. Their blue skin gleamed under the bright lights. Their forearms waved in excitement. Their strange voices created a sound like nothing Marcus had ever heard before. He had won. Against all odds, the human had defeated their greatest champion. Marcus looked down at the fallen Kithaeron warrior. The alien was twice his size and had 4 powerful arms instead of 2. Its natural armor was thick and strong. But Marcus had found a weakness. He always did. That was what made humans dangerous in the eyes of the galaxy. The arena floor was made of smooth black stone. It was stained with blood from countless battles. Some of that blood was his own. Marcus felt it running down his left arm where claws had torn through his shirt. His right leg throbbed where a heavy blow had landed. But he was alive. His opponent was not. A loud horn blew 3 times. The crowd slowly grew quiet. Marcus knew what came next. He had seen it happen to other winners before him. The reward ceremony. High above the arena floor, on a platform that seemed to float in the air, sat Emperor Thyrak. The ruler of the Kithaeron Empire was old even by alien standards. His blue skin had turned almost white with age. Golden rings covered his forearms. A crown of strange metal sat on his large head. A herald stepped forward on the platform. This alien was younger and wore red robes that marked him as a speaker for the emperor. His voice was amplified somehow so everyone in the arena could hear. "The human has proven himself worthy," the herald announced. "He has defeated our champion in honorable combat. By the ancient laws of our people, he has earned a reward." Marcus had heard about this part. Winners of the great arena battles were given prizes. Sometimes it was gold or weapons. Sometimes it was ships or land. For humans, the Kithaeans had something special in mind. 2 guards marched onto the arena floor. Between them walked 2 figures in chains. Marcus felt his stomach turn cold when he saw them. They were both female, both aliens, but not Kithaeans. The first was tall and strong. Her skin was silver like polished metal. Scars covered her arms and face. They were the kind of scars that came from many battles. Her hair was white and braided with small metal pieces. Even in chains, she held her head high. Her green eyes burned with anger and pride. Marcus knew her species. She was a Valkyrian. They were known as fierce warriors across the galaxy. The second female was smaller and more delicate. Her skin was blue but lighter than the Kithaeans. It was almost see-through in some places. Her hair was long and dark. It fell around her shoulders like water. Her eyes were large and sad. She kept her head down and did not look at anyone. Marcus recognized her too. She was an Etherian. Her people were known for their intelligence and peaceful ways. Both females wore simple gray clothes that marked them as prisoners. Both had metal collars around their necks. The chains that bound their hands were heavy and looked painful. The herald spoke again. "These 2 females were captured in recent battles. One is a warrior from the Valkyrian fleet. The other is a scholar from the Etherian worlds. By the right of victory, the human may choose one as his prize. She will serve him for the rest of her life." Marcus felt sick. He looked at the 2 aliens standing before him. The Valkyrian warrior met his eyes with hatred. She would rather die than serve anyone. The Etherian scholar still looked at the ground. Her shoulders shook slightly. She was trying not to cry. The crowd began to chant. They wanted him to choose. They wanted to see which female the human would take as his reward. Marcus had fought in the arena because he had no choice. His ship had been captured while carrying supplies to human colonies. The Kithaeans gave all prisoners the same offer: fight in the arena or die in prison. If you won enough fights, they would let you go free. But this was different. This was not about fighting for freedom. This was about owning another person. Marcus thought about his home world. He thought about the values his people tried to live by. Humans believed that all thinking beings had rights. They believed that no one should own another person. These beliefs had made humans enemies of many alien empires. But they were beliefs worth fighting for. He looked at the Valkyrian again. She was probably a good soldier. Her people were known for their skill in battle. If she served him, she could help him escape. She could fight beside him against their captors. He looked at the Etherean. She was small and weak. She could not help him fight. But her people were known for their knowledge. Maybe she knew things that could help him. Maybe she could find a way to get them all free. The crowd grew louder. The herald raised one of his 4 hands for silence. "The human must choose," the herald said. "The law demands it. Choose one, and claim your reward." Marcus walked slowly toward the 2 females. His boots made soft sounds on the stone floor. The arena was so quiet now that everyone could hear his footsteps. He stopped a few feet away from them. The Valkyrian still stared at him with hate. The Etherean still would not look up. Marcus had made his decision. But it was not the choice anyone expected. He turned away from both females and looked up at the Emperor's platform. His voice was clear and strong when he spoke. "I choose neither." The words echoed in the sudden silence. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the Emperor seemed frozen in surprise. Marcus stood alone in the center of the arena. 2 alien females in chains stood behind him. Thousands of alien eyes stared down at him, and somewhere high above, an Emperor tried to understand what a human had just done. The real test was about to begin. The silence in the arena lasted only a few seconds, but to Marcus, it felt like hours. He could feel thousands of alien eyes staring at him. He could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. Then the crowd exploded into noise. Some aliens shouted in anger. Others seemed confused. Many talked quickly to each other in their strange language. The sound was like a storm hitting the arena. High above, Emperor Thyrak slowly stood up from his throne. Even from far away, Marcus could see the surprise on the old alien's face. The Emperor's forearms moved as he spoke to his advisors. Marcus could not hear the words, but he could see that the ruler was not happy. The herald on the platform looked confused. He kept looking from Marcus to the Emperor and back again. This had never happened before. The ancient laws said the winner must choose a prize. But what happened if the winner refused? Marcus stood still in the center of the arena. He did not move toward the 2 female prisoners. He did not look at them. He kept his eyes on the Emperor's platform. Behind him, the Valkyrian warrior made a small sound of surprise. For the first time since entering the arena, she seemed unsure of what was happening. The Etherean scholar finally looked up. Her large eyes were wide with shock. The herald found his voice again. He spoke loudly over the noise of the crowd. "The human must choose," he announced. "The law is clear. A victor in the arena must claim his reward. You cannot refuse." Marcus shook his head. "Where I come from, people are not prizes to be won. I will not choose either of these females as property." The crowd grew even louder. Some aliens seemed angry at his words. Others appeared curious about this strange human behavior. The herald looked up at the Emperor. Thyrak made a gesture with one of his 4 hands. The herald nodded and spoke again. "If you will not choose a prize, then you have insulted our ancient traditions. The penalty for such insult is death. But the Emperor is generous. He offers you one final chance. Choose one of the females, or face execution." Marcus had expected this. He knew the Catherians would not simply let him walk away. But he had a plan. It was dangerous, but it might work. "And what happens to the females if I refuse again?" Marcus asked loudly. The herald paused. He looked up at the Emperor again. After a moment, he answered, "If you continue to refuse, both females will be executed alongside you. Their deaths will pay for your insult to our ways." The Valkyrian warrior hissed in anger. She pulled against her chains. The Etherean scholar stepped backward in fear. Marcus nodded slowly. This was exactly what he had hoped the Emperor would say. Now came the dangerous part. "I request an audience with the Emperor," Marcus called out. "I have information about human military secrets that he would want to hear." Information that could help the Empire defeat my people in the coming war. The crowd fell quiet again. Everyone knew that humans and Kytherans were heading toward a great conflict. The two species had been enemies for years. Any intelligence about human weaknesses would be very valuable. Emperor Thyrak leaned forward on his throne. His old eyes studied Marcus carefully. The Emperor spoke quietly to his advisors for several minutes. Marcus could not hear the words, but he could see a heated discussion taking place. Finally, the herald spoke again. The Emperor will grant you a private audience. But be warned, human. If your information proves false, your death will be slow and painful. The females will die alongside you. Guards surrounded Marcus and the two prisoners. They marched them out of the arena and through long corridors made of the same black stone. The walls were covered with carvings that showed the history of Kytheron victories. Marcus walked between two tall guards. Their blue skin was darker than the Emperor's. Their forearms carried weapons that could kill him instantly. But they treated him with some respect. He had won in their arena. That meant something to their warrior culture. The Valkyrian and Etherian walked behind him with their own guards. Marcus could hear the chains on their feet scraping against the stone floor. They climbed stairs that led high into the imperial palace. The corridors here were wider and more beautiful. Golden decorations covered the walls. Expensive carpets lay on the floors. This was where the most powerful aliens in the Empire lived and worked. Finally, they reached a large door made of metal and decorated with jewels. The guards stopped and announced their arrival. The door opened slowly. The Emperor's private chamber was huge. The ceiling was so high that Marcus could barely see it. Strange lights floated in the air without any support. Rare plants from across the galaxy grew in expensive pots. Emperor Thyrak sat in a chair that was more like a throne. It was made of metal that seemed to change color as the light hit it. The old alien looked even more impressive here than he had in the arena. "So," the Emperor said in perfect human language, "you are the human who refuses to claim his prize." Marcus was surprised that the Emperor could speak his language so well. But he did not let the surprise show on his face. "Yes, Your Majesty. I am Marcus Chen, formerly of the Earth Defense Force. And you claim to have information about human military secrets?" "I do. I must know something. Why are these two females so important? Why not offer me gold or ships instead?" The Emperor smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "Because we have heard stories about humans. Stories that say your species values the lives of others over your own gain. We wanted to test if these stories were true." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. This had been a test all along. The Kytherans were studying human behavior. "And what have you learned?" Marcus asked. "That humans are either very noble or very foolish. Perhaps both." The Emperor gestured to chairs near his throne. "Sit. Tell me about these military secrets. If they are valuable enough, perhaps we can make a deal." Marcus sat down carefully. The Valkyrian and Etherian were forced to kneel nearby, still in chains. Guards stood at every door. "What I have to offer," Marcus said slowly, "will change everything between our peoples, but I will need guarantees about the safety of these two females." Emperor Thyrak laughed. "You are in no position to make demands, human. Perhaps not. But what I know about human fleet movements and defensive weaknesses is worth more than 2 prisoners. And if you kill me now, you will never learn it." The Emperor's smile faded. He studied Marcus with new interest. "Very well. Speak, and pray that your information is as valuable as you claim." Marcus took a deep breath. Everything depended on what happened next. Marcus looked directly into Emperor Thyrak's ancient eyes. The old alien was waiting. The 2 female prisoners knelt nearby, listening to every word. Guards stood ready to kill them all if the Emperor gave the order. "Your Majesty," Marcus began carefully, "what I am about to tell you could win the war for your empire. But first, you must understand something about humans." The Emperor leaned back in his throne. His forearms rested on the metal armrests. "Speak. Humans fear the Kytheran Empire more than you know. We have studied your military for years. We know how powerful your fleets are. We know how strong your armies are. And we are afraid. This was partly true. The human military did respect Keitharan's strength, but they were not afraid. Marcus hoped the Emperor would not know the difference. Continue, Thyrak said. My people have prepared for war with you. But they have made mistakes. Big mistakes. Our defensive plans have weaknesses that your forces could exploit. Marcus began to describe fake human military positions. He talked about imaginary weak points in human defenses. He invented stories about human ships that were not as strong as they appeared. All of it was lies, but he mixed in enough real details to make it sound believable. The Emperor listened carefully. Sometimes he asked questions. Marcus answered them all with confidence. He had been a military officer before his capture. He knew enough about strategy to make his lies sound real. These are interesting details, the Emperor said when Marcus finished. But why should I trust you? Why would a human betray his own people? This was the moment Marcus had been preparing for. Everything depended on his next words. Because I have seen the truth, Your Majesty. Humans cannot win this war. Your empire is too strong. Your technology is too advanced. When the fighting starts, my people will be destroyed. Marcus stood up slowly. He kept his hands where the guards could see them. I do not want to die for a losing cause. I want to survive. I want to serve the winning side. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. You would become a traitor to your own species? I would become a realist. Humans value individual survival above loyalty to the group. It is one of our weaknesses. This was a complete lie. Humans were actually known for sacrificing themselves for others. But Marcus hoped the Emperor would believe it fit with Keitharan views about other species. And what do you want in return for this information? Thyrak asked. Marcus pointed to the two female prisoners. I want them. Both of them. The Valkyrian warrior looked up sharply. Her green eyes burned with hatred. The Aetherian scholar seemed confused and frightened. Both? The Emperor repeated. The law says you may have only one. Then change the law. You are the Emperor. These females will be proof of my new loyalty to your empire. When I return to human space, everyone will see that I have accepted Keitharan ways. They will believe I have truly switched sides. Marcus walked closer to the Emperor's throne. The guards tensed, but Thyrak gestured for them to stay back. I will serve as your agent among the humans, Marcus continued. I will send you more intelligence about their plans. I will help you prepare for the final victory. But I need these two as symbols of my change. The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. He looked at Marcus, then at the two prisoners, then back at Marcus. You would take slaves to convince your people that you have abandoned human values? Yes. My own people will hate me for it. But you will know that my loyalty is real. A human who would keep slaves can never go back to human society. I would have to serve you forever. This was the key to Marcus's plan. He was betting that the Emperor would see the logic in it. A human agent who could never return home would be completely loyal to the Empire. Emperor Thyrak smiled slowly. Clever. Very clever. If what you say is true, you would indeed be cut off from your people forever. Exactly. I would have no choice but to serve the Empire faithfully. The Emperor stood up from his throne. He was much taller than Marcus had realized. His forearms moved as he paced around the room. There are risks in this plan, Thyrak said. What if the humans discover that you are working for us? They will not. I know how to avoid their security. I know their systems. And I will be careful to send information slowly. If I give you too much too quickly, they might become suspicious. And these two females? What will you do with them? Marcus looked at the Valkyrian and Aetherian. Both were staring at him with different expressions. The warrior looked disgusted. The scholar looked terrified. I will treat them as any Keitharan master would. They will serve me and obey my commands. Their presence will convince everyone that I have truly changed. The Valkyrian made a low growling sound. If she had not been chained, Marcus thought she might have tried to kill him right there. Interesting, the Emperor mused. You are asking me to trust you with valuable intelligence and 2 expensive prisoners. What guarantee do I have that you will not simply escape with them? Marcus had expected this question too. You will have my ship watched. You will have agents checking on me. And you know that if I betray you, the Empire will hunt me to the end of the galaxy. There would be nowhere to hide. True. The Emperor walked back to his throne and sat down. Very well, I accept your proposal. You will take both females as your servants. In return, you will provide intelligence about human military plans. Marcus felt relief wash over him. The first part of his plan had worked. However, the Emperor continued, there are conditions. Your ship will have Kitharan monitoring equipment installed. You will report to us every 30 days. And if you fail to provide useful information, we will track you down and kill all 3 of you slowly. Understood, Your Majesty. Good. The Emperor made a gesture to his guards. Take them to prepare for departure. Give the human a ship suitable for carrying 2 prisoners. Make sure the monitoring equipment is properly installed. As the guards began to move, the Emperor spoke again. One more thing, Marcus Chen. Do not think that I am fooled by your performance. I know you are not the traitor you pretend to be. But your plan serves my purposes. When you reach human space with these 2 as your slaves, it will show other humans what happens when they fight the Empire. It will break their spirit. Marcus felt ice in his veins. The Emperor knew he was lying. But somehow, that did not matter. Take them away, Thyrak commanded. And remember, human, I will be watching everything you do. The guards surrounded Marcus and the 2 prisoners. As they left the chamber, Marcus wondered if his plan was as clever as he had thought, or if he had just walked into a trap that was even more dangerous than the arena. The ship the Kytherans gave Marcus was small but well-equipped. It had sleeping quarters for 3 people, a basic kitchen, and a small cargo hold. Most importantly, it had a fast engine that could reach human space in 2 weeks. But the ship also had something Marcus did not want. Hidden cameras and listening devices were placed throughout every room. The Emperor was keeping his promise to watch everything they did. Marcus stood in the main cabin as the ship left the Kitharan homeworld. Through the window, he could see the planet growing smaller behind them. Soon they would be in open space, traveling toward human territory. The 2 female prisoners sat on opposite sides of the cabin. They still wore their chains, though the guards had removed the heavy collars before departure. Both females watched Marcus with different kinds of hatred. Zara, the Valkyrian warrior, stared at him with open disgust. Her silver skin seemed to glow with anger. The scars on her arms and face told stories of many battles. Marcus could see that she was planning to kill him at the first opportunity. Lys, the Etherean scholar, was more afraid than angry. Her pale blue skin had turned almost white with fear. Her large eyes followed Marcus's movements around the cabin. She seemed to expect him to hurt her at any moment. Marcus knew he had to be careful. The monitoring devices would record everything he said and did. If he revealed his real plan too early, the Emperor would send ships to stop them, but if he waited too long, one of the females might succeed in killing him. He decided to start with small actions that might seem normal to the Watchers but would hint at his true intentions to the prisoners. The chains look uncomfortable, Marcus said to both females. He kept his voice casual, as if he was simply concerned about his property. Zara spat on the floor. I do not need comfort from a slave-owning human. Lys said nothing, but she rubbed her wrists where the metal had left marks. Marcus walked to a control panel and entered a code. The chains around their ankles clicked open and fell to the floor. Both females looked surprised. You will not try to escape, Marcus said loudly. This ship is surrounded by empty space. There is nowhere to run. This was for the benefit of the listening devices. But Marcus hoped the females would understand that he was giving them more freedom because he wanted to, not because he had to. Zara stood up slowly. Her muscles were stiff from sitting in chains for so long. She looked around the cabin, studying possible weapons and escape routes. Lys remained sitting, but she seemed a little less afraid. She watched Marcus with curious eyes. For the first 3 days of their journey, Marcus tried to act like a normal captor. He gave them simple orders. He made them prepare meals and clean the ship. But he was not cruel. He did not hurt them or threaten them. He even gave them better sleeping quarters than they expected. Zara grew more frustrated each day. She was a warrior. She wanted to fight, but Marcus never gave her a clear chance to attack. He stayed alert and kept his distance. When she tried to grab a kitchen knife, he simply took it away without violence. Liz began to relax slightly. She had expected much worse treatment. She started to speak occasionally, asking practical questions about the ship's systems or their destination. On the 4th day, Zara made her first real attempt to kill Marcus. He was working at the navigation console when she attacked. She moved silently across the cabin, using skills learned in many battles. A piece of broken metal from the ship's wall was in her hand. Marcus heard her coming at the last second. He rolled aside as the makeshift weapon struck where his head had been. Zara was fast and strong. She pressed her attack, trying to corner him against the control panels. For several minutes they fought in the small space. Marcus was skilled in human combat techniques, but Zara was larger and stronger. Her Valkyrian training made her dangerous even without proper weapons. Finally, Marcus managed to grab her wrist and twist the metal away from her hand. But instead of fighting back or calling for help, he did something that surprised her. He let go and stepped backward, putting his hands up to show he would not attack. "I am not your enemy," he said quietly. Zara stared at him in confusion. "You bought me like property. You plan to use me as a slave. How are you not my enemy?" Marcus looked around the cabin. He knew the cameras were recording everything. He had to be very careful with his next words. "Things are not always what they seem," he said. "Sometimes a person must appear to do wrong things in order to do right things." Zara's eyes narrowed. "What does that mean?" Marcus could not say more. Not yet. The monitoring devices were always listening. But he hoped she would think about his words. 2 days later, Liz found the first monitoring device. She was cleaning the sleeping area when her hand touched something that felt wrong. Hidden behind a wall panel was a small camera. When she showed it to Marcus, he was not surprised. "Of course they are watching us," he said for the benefit of the listeners. "I am carrying valuable intelligence. They want to make sure I do not try to escape." "I do." But that night, when the ship's lights were dimmed for sleeping, Marcus found Liz in the small kitchen area. She was pretending to prepare food, but her real purpose was to talk where the cameras could not see them clearly. "There are devices everywhere," she whispered. "At least 20 that I have found. Maybe more." Marcus nodded. He had known about most of them. "Keep looking," he whispered back. "But be careful not to damage them. That would make our watchers suspicious." "Why do you want me to find them?" Liz asked. "Because eventually, we will need to know where they all are." Liz stared at him in the dim light. "You really are not what you pretend to be." "No, I am not." From that night forward, Liz began to work with Marcus instead of against him. She continued to act frightened and obedient when the cameras could see her clearly, but in private moments, she helped him plan their next moves. Zara was harder to convince. She attempted to kill Marcus 2 more times during their journey. Once with a piece of sharp plastic, and once by trying to strangle him while he slept. Each time, Marcus defended himself but did not hurt her in return. After the 3rd failed attempt, Zara cornered him in the cargo hold. This time, she had a real weapon, a maintenance tool that could be used like a knife. "I will kill you," she said, raising the tool above her head. "I would rather die than serve a human slave master." Marcus looked up at her. He could have fought back. He could have called for help from the ship's security systems. Instead, he did something that shocked her completely. He knelt down and bowed his head. "If you must kill me, then do it," he said. "But first, let me give you something." He reached slowly into his pocket and pulled out a small electronic device. It was the key to her hand restraints. "The code is 7739, he said quietly. "Your chains will open." Zara stared at the device in his hand. "Why would you give me this?" "Because a person should be free to choose their own path, even if that path leads to my death." For a long moment, Zara stood frozen. The weapon was still in her hand. The restraint key was inches away. She could kill Marcus and then free herself from the remaining chains, but something in his voice made her hesitate. Something in his actions over the past week made her question what she thought she knew about him. "You are not what you seem," she said slowly. "No, I am not. And neither is this journey." Zara lowered the weapon slightly. "What do you mean?" Marcus looked up at her. He could not say everything, not with the cameras watching, but he could give her enough truth to make a choice. "We are going to human space," he said. "When we arrive, you will have to decide what you want to do with your freedom. But it will be your choice to make. Not mine. Not the Emperor's. Yours." Zara studied his face for a long time. Finally, she reached down and took the electronic key from his hand. "I will not kill you today," she said. "But I will be watching you. If you betray us, if you try to truly make us slaves, I will end your life." "I understand," Marcus said. "I would expect nothing less from a warrior." As Zara walked away with the key to her freedom, Marcus wondered if he had just gained an ally or signed his own death sentence. Either way, they were now only 4 days from human space, and the real test of his plan was about to begin. Marcus stood at the ship's control panel, watching the long-range sensors. After 2 weeks of travel, they were finally approaching human space. Soon they would encounter the patrol fleets that protected the outer colonies. Behind him, Zara and Liz sat together in the main cabin. Over the past few days, the two females had begun to trust each other. The Valkyrian warrior and the Etherian scholar were very different, but they shared the common experience of being prisoners. More importantly, they had both begun to understand that Marcus was not what he appeared to be. The breakthrough had come 2 nights ago. Marcus had quietly disabled 3 of the monitoring devices in the sleeping area. It was risky, but he needed a place where they could speak freely. He told them everything. He explained his real plan. He revealed how he had tricked the Emperor. He showed them the false intelligence he had provided about human military weaknesses. Most importantly, he told them they would be free as soon as they reached human space. Zara had listened with growing amazement. "You risked your life to save 2 strangers?" "Yes." "Why?" Marcus had thought about that question many times during their journey. "Because it was the right thing to do. Because no thinking being should be owned by another. Because that is what humans believe." Liz had asked different questions. She wanted to know about human society. She wanted to understand how a culture could value freedom so highly that its members would die for strangers. "Where I come from," Marcus had explained, "we believe that freedom is not something you earn or win. It is something that belongs to everyone just because they exist. Taking that freedom away from someone is one of the worst crimes we can imagine." Now they were hours away from meeting the first human patrol. Marcus knew he had to time everything perfectly. The Ketheran monitoring devices were still recording most of their conversations. The Emperor's agents would be watching for any sign of betrayal, but Marcus had spent years in human military intelligence. He knew how to send coded messages that would be invisible to alien watchers. "Contact on sensors," Marcus announced. "Human patrol vessel approaching." On the main screen, a sleek human ship appeared. It was smaller than their vessel, but heavily armed. Marcus recognized the design. It was a border guard ship, designed to intercept smugglers and enemy scouts. A voice came over the communications system. "Unknown vessel. This is Captain Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Ship Vigilant. Identify yourself and state your business in human space." Marcus activated the reply system. He knew the cameras were watching him, so he had to be careful with his words. "This is Marcus Chen, formerly of the 7th Fleet. I am returning from Ketheran space with intelligence about enemy military plans." There was a pause on the other end. Marcus could imagine the surprise on the human ship. A human returning from enemy space was unusual enough. A human traveling with 2 alien prisoners was almost impossible to believe. "Marcus Chen, you are listed as missing in action," Captain Rodriguez said. "Your ship was lost 8 months ago." "Confirmed." "I was captured and held in Kitharan prison. I managed to escape with valuable information about their military preparations. This was technically true. Marcus had escaped from prison by winning in the arena. The fact that his escape was part of a larger plan was not something he could explain over an open channel. "We need to board your ship for inspection," the captain said. "Prepare to be boarded." Marcus looked at Zara and Liz. Both females were nervous. They knew this was the moment of truth. If Marcus's plan failed, they might end up as prisoners again. "Remember what we discussed," Marcus said quietly. The monitoring devices would record his words, but they sounded like a master reminding his slaves to behave properly. In reality, he was telling them to stick to their agreed story. 20 minutes later, a shuttle from the Vigilant docked with their ship. Captain Rodriguez came aboard with 4 Marines. The captain was a middle-aged woman with short gray hair and sharp eyes. The Marines were young and alert, their weapons ready but not pointed at anyone. Captain Rodriguez looked around the main cabin. Her eyes stopped when she saw Zara and Liz. "Prisoners?" she asked. "Servants," Marcus corrected. "Gifts from the Emperor. Proof of my value as an intelligence source." The captain studied Marcus carefully. Something in his voice had caught her attention. After 15 years in the military, she had learned to listen for hidden messages. "I see. And what intelligence do you have about Kitharan military plans?" Marcus began to recite the false information he had given to Emperor Thyrak. He described imaginary weak points in human defenses. He detailed fake troop movements and fictional supply problems. All of it was designed to make the Kytherans confident about attacking. But as he spoke, Marcus also included small signals that any human intelligence officer would recognize. He mentioned the names of operations that did not exist. He referenced star systems with populations that were impossible. He described weapons that used technology humans had never developed. Captain Rodriguez was skilled enough to catch these signals. Her expression did not change, but Marcus could see understanding in her eyes. This man was not a traitor. He was an agent, carrying false intelligence back to confuse enemy planning. When Marcus finished his report, the captain asked to speak with the 2 aliens privately. "I need to verify their stories," she explained. "Standard procedure for all refugees and prisoners." Marcus nodded. He could not object without seeming suspicious to any Kitharan watchers. Captain Rodriguez took Zara and Liz to the ship's small conference room. For 30 minutes, she questioned them about their experiences. Both females told the truth about their capture and imprisonment. They also told the truth about Marcus's treatment of them during the journey. "He never hurt us," Liz said. "He gave us freedom to move around the ship. He provided good food and clean sleeping areas. He could have killed me when I attacked him," Zara added. "Instead, he gave me the key to my own chains. No slave master would do such a thing." Captain Rodriguez listened to everything. When they finished, she had a clear picture of what had really happened. She returned to the main cabin where Marcus was waiting. "Your servants will be taken to a processing center for refugees," she announced. "They will be given medical care and temporary housing while we decide their final status." Marcus nodded. "Of course. I no longer have need of them anyway." But his eyes said something different. His eyes said goodbye to 2 friends who had trusted him with their lives. 3 hours later, Marcus was aboard the Vigilant, heading toward the main human fleet base. Zara and Liz were on a different ship, traveling toward a colony world where refugees were given new homes and new lives. In the intelligence briefing room on the fleet base, Marcus told the complete truth to General Harrison, the head of human military intelligence. "The false information will make them overconfident," Marcus explained. "They will attack where we are strongest and avoid where we are actually weak. But more importantly, we now have proof of their slave trade operations." General Harrison leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "The 2 alien females I rescued can testify about Kytharan slavery. They have first-hand knowledge of the Empire's treatment of prisoners. With their testimony, we can bring the case to the Galactic Council." The general smiled. "A war crimes trial?" "Exactly. And with other species seeing what the Kytherans really do to their prisoners, we will have allies instead of fighting alone." 6 months later, Marcus stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. Representatives from dozens of species filled the chamber. At the center of the room, Emperor Thyrak sat in chains. Zara and Lys gave testimony about their treatment as prisoners. Other rescued slaves from different species told similar stories. The evidence against the Kitharan Empire was overwhelming. The council voted unanimously to end all trade and cooperation with the empire. Several species offered to join humans in military action against Kitharan slave operations. After the trial, Marcus found Zara and Lys waiting for him outside the council building. "So, what happens now?" Zara asked. She wore the uniform of a human military advisor. She had volunteered to help plan rescue missions for other prisoners. "Now we go free more slaves," Marcus said. "There are still thousands of prisoners in Kitharan camps." Lys smiled. She had been working with human scientists to develop better medicine for rescued slaves. Her gentle nature and vast knowledge made her perfect for helping traumatized prisoners recover from their experiences. "Will you lead the rescue missions?" she asked Marcus. "Someone has to. And I know their systems better than most." "Crowd." Zara grinned. It was a fierce expression that would have frightened most humans. But Marcus had learned to read her moods. "Good," she said. "I was hoping you would say that. Some of those prisoners are Valkyrian warriors. They will want revenge against their captors. And some are Etherian scholars," Lys added. "They will want justice instead of revenge. But they will want freedom most of all." Marcus looked up at the sky above the council world. Somewhere out there, the first rescue fleet was already heading toward Kitharan space. It was not a fleet of conquerors seeking prizes. It was a fleet of liberators carrying the simple human belief that freedom belonged to everyone. "Let's go free some people," Marcus said. As they walked toward the spaceport together, Marcus thought about the choice he had made in the arena. He had been offered 2 prizes and had chosen neither. Instead, he had chosen